So I'm going to take it, and I got my book here, which we haven't really talked about on the program. So I've got a book that just came out called Motorhome Prophecies,
Yes,
and
please,
it
folks.
it
It's a good
tackles
book.
it tackles a lot of topics. But one of the main issues why I wrote it is that it tackles mental health, and and I know you've been through a lot of trauma in your life, Dave, and I'm really interested in tackling this topic. And in fact, I've got some scholars coming from Harvard and Catholic University and some colleges in Texas coming on June 12th for an event at the Museum in the Bible. And it's looking at the overwhelming scientific evidence that belief in God, spirituality, church, faith practice, that it all has a very positive impact when it's done in a healthy way, not like a controlling, suppressing way. And that's the thing is, I think is I'd be curious to get your thoughts. It seems to me like the West has thrown the baby out with the bathwater because they equate religion with abusive things like Hamas, where they use religion to suppress people. Or in my case, my dad had a Mormon cult and he used religion to suppress me. I had to work through that to understand the difference between a healthy spirituality, which is strongly associated with less suicide, less substance abuse, and more positive mental health. So, do you think the West has kind of thrown the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to spirituality and mental health?
Well, I think it's kind of a team effort. And before I say what I mean by that, I want to say I think one of the reasons you and I have a nice bond is that we've each been through trauma in different ways. I mean, I've certainly been as privileged as one can be in terms of my family and support. And yet I've been as unlucky as one can be with some of the crappy physical hands I've been dealt. You've been blessed in other ways, but you've had some really tough issues with your family and some of the stuff that you've been put through and going through trauma in other ways. And we all, what doesn't break you makes you stronger. I think those of us with the most character, you can argue, have the most scars. But to answer your question, I think it's been a team effort. And what I mean by that is, yes, I think that we have a real morality gap in this country, particularly with young people. I think that that's causing a lot of the unhappiness, because I do think that it's important to have a North Star or something. But having said that, organized religion has been their own worst enemy. And, whether it's the pedophilia stuff with the Catholic Church, whether it's the proselytizing, whether it's the cramming parochial laws down the throat of our secular society, whether it's the religious right trying to invade everybody's bedroom on everything from birth control on up to abortion and all this stuff. So I think religion is certainly to blame, but I do think that, yes, a lot of it rests with us. I think my only advice to people would be separate faith from religion. Faith is your personal set of beliefs. That's the most important thing anyone can have. It's the one thing no one can take away from you. Church and meeting with groups like that gives you a good sense of community. Organized religion, the Catholic Church, I'll pass on it. I think it's terrible. I don't think it should have a tax-exempt status. That's a whole nother show. But focus on what matters to you and focus on your set of beliefs. I promise you your life would be richer. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the main themes of the book is the difference between God and religion. And I like to joke that it's like a Gucci bag, like a knockoff Gucci bag with a fake G on it. That's when you use toxic man-made religion in the name of God. And religion at its best, I believe, will point you to God and connect you with God at its best. And at its worst, it will harm and control and destroy. And like you mentioned, the pedophilia or a corrupt televangelist stealing money or sexually abusing women. That is, I think, important for us to separate, especially for the younger generation, because I totally agree with you that part of why we have record depression and suicide among young people is because they've turned away from God, because they're confusing God with religion.
Well, spirituality, you can be spiritual without being religious. You can have a higher power, as long as that it doesn't have to be a specific God, as long as you agree and as long as you believe and give yourself to that higher power.
Yeah. Well, the Bible says that God is love. And so if you love people and you love yourself, then that will just radiate out from you to other people. And I think what's lost when people don't go to church, because again, when it's done right, it helps you connect with love. Because yes, there are some terrible things in the Catholic Church, but the Catholic Church also does a lot of good. They globally, they do a lot for education. I was down in Peru, what they do for poor with the hospitals and schools and charity, and they help a lot of immigrants. The Catholic Church does a lot of good, and so do the other religions too. So you have to look at it from a nuanced standpoint, I think. And unfortunately, I think we've swung so far in one direction, and that's to this gap that you're talking about.
I agree.